don't want to stay out of it.
No.
Scott's not here either.
I think
She is.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Fire District Board meeting of March 18th. Would you please turn off your cell phones, put them away?
Can I leave it on just in case Keith?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just silence it.
Okay.
And please don't text during the board meeting.
Okay.
If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Sure.
Aldrich.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
Verplank.
Here.
Phelps is absent with notice. Meridian.
Here.
And Lewis.
Here.
Okay, can we have approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as stamped.
Okay, a motion by Beckman and a second by Fox to approve the agenda as it stands. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion, or the agenda stands as presented. We have approval of the minutes of the February 18th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting that happened on February 18th, 2019.
Second.
I have a motion by Meridian and a second by Fox to approve the minutes of the February 18th board meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes stand. Public comment on agenda items only, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody out there want to comment? Okay, moving on. We have a request for payment.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills of $119,635.21.
I have a motion by Beckman and a second by Fox to pay the bills in the amount of $119,635.21. Is there any discussion?
Quite a truck payment.
There's two left. Yeah.
Okay,
That's annual, right?
Yep.
no, we're gonna make another one.
I wish we could.
Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a roll call vote, I'm sorry.
Yep. Beckman.
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Verplank.
Yes.
Meridian.
Yes.
And Miller.
Yes.
Okay, Peter, financial report.
Okay, let's see here. The revenues are here strong. I think I collected everything from the 3 entities except what's delinquent. We'll get those payments sometime in mid to late June. So overall, on the revenue side, we've collected just 95.59% of what we projected as our revenue, and the rest of it will be over what we projected because we'll get those tax payments, which is by and large the large part of it. The expense side, I'm going to meet with Greg and I believe Chris on Thursday to go over the budget. We'll probably have a budget adjustment next month for this year, but we're getting, if you look at fire calls, we're at 90% of what was originally budgeted, so we're going to make some adjustments. The medical calls are only at 63%, which is about in line where we should be on a proportionary basis. There's a couple of them, workers' comp insurance, we'll have to make an adjustment there. The dues and securities, we'll have to make an adjustment there. So I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions, or I think overall we're in fairly decent shape.
We have 3 months left, right?
Yes, yeah. So we got, but with the fire calls, we got 4 months of payroll. So we're we're going to be short there. I think we're probably going to. You never know what the calls project. We probably need about another $10,000 from somewhere for these fire calls.
Work your magic.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you, Peter. Moving on, fire chief comments, Greg?
Okay, thanks for everyone for being here. We'll go over this. As you can see, in February, we got hammered about 42% up from last year. So, due to the polar vortex, no doubt, the highway was exceptionally busy. So, certainly another record for February. Okay? And you can see, by far, February of 19 outweighs all the rest.
Yeah, and on average, months of February would be 54 calls. So we were way above average.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Incident comparison by the last 3 years, up about 8%. Each year it seems to be single or double digits climbing up. Day of the week, kind of an interesting chart that shows you good strong activity on Saturday. Wednesday, we can't explain that. We don't know why it's like that.
Okay. Must have had some snowstorms on those Wednesdays.
I don't know. That's a training day, so I don't know, maybe something happens there. Incidents by the time of day shouldn't be surprising. As long as I've been around, the data shows that the majority of the calls are during the day. Not necessarily fires, but incident response during the day, which is a justification for staffing levels. Response times, understandably, would be up with the road conditions we had. Salt was ineffective. Shows priority 1s and 2s. Volume. Typical INFRS reporting categories. Okay. And motor vehicle incidents, this is year-to-date, 23. So this is obviously a calendar year. And you can see the activity in gray, January and February. Special events, we had 2 in February. The one in Douglas was a great response. The Winterfest was a lot of fun. We had a good time with it. And then incidents by area. 21 for I-196. Mutual aid would be that green one at the bottom. Teresa Douglas. This just shows the budgetary allocations. Mutual aid. Certainly we've been the givers. And then our total unit response, 2173 is the pickup truck, the Dodge pickup truck. Command 2, 2172 is the truck that looks like mine. You can see tanker 2142, that's the truck that has an arrow board on it. So that's the dominant truck on the highway. Rest is pretty self-explanatory. 21 overlapping incidents in February. Personnel response.
When you see Johnny's getting some competition this year.
Yeah, I see that. What's happened?
Would you have a broken leg or something, John?
What's up with that?
protected property values. We had a real good save, gosh, guys, I'm drawing a blank, Sunday morning in downtown Saugatuck. Briefly, it shows the value of the fire alarm system. So what happens with most fire alarm calls? Cry wolf, right, false alarms. So you tend to get into a complacent mode. However, guys packed up, suited up, response, and the building had some construction going on, and the fire alarm told us a general area, but not an addressable system. So we couldn't find exactly where it was. We could smell something burning, but a bathroom fan was on, and bathroom fans are notorious for catching fires because they aren't designed to run for hours at a time. So went through one of the rooms and I saw the wiring on top of the hot plate. Brought one of the owners in, said, "Could this be it?" And he said, "Nope, we haven't used that for years." So I grabbed it off the hot plate and burned my fingers. So one of the guys had a thermal imager camera. I said, "Give me a temp on it." It was 300 degrees. That was the cause right there. We couldn't find it. We were there for quite a while. And it was just...
What building was that one?
I'm sorry?
What building?
Right down from Wally's. It was the jewelry store.
Okay.
104 Hoffman, that has a Water Street address. So you don't want to be complacent. It shows the value of a fire alarm because that would have been a fire. There's no doubt about it. It was all sorts of stuff on the counter because it's a workroom. There was actually a cleaner that was nearby. So good that they had a fire alarm system. It was monitored. They had a Knox key box. Everything kind of worked. We could not reset the fire alarm system for quite a long time. My head was ringing the next day. So a good save by the crew. A good save. Great. Okay. Wanted to jump into that. State of Michigan fatal fires. We picked up, we're at 19. We picked up 15 from the last meeting. Just unbelievable. Part of our community risk reduction, and we have guys all over the area, right? So Eric saw this. He walks and hikes in the dunes, and one of the things we've been trying to promote and educate people is to stay off the ice shelves. Eric?
Yeah, we, it was a Friday morning, and we saw there was a bus from Hamilton School System out in the park, and then we usually try to avoid the kids because they are very loud and obnoxious. But when then we saw all the kids with the teachers and chaperones. They were out on the ice taking photos and selfies, and there was a few students and chaperones left on the beach. So we talked to one of them, and he said, because I expressed my concern about being out on having all those kids out on the shelf ice, you don't know where the voids are and when it's going to crack open. But then he assured me that the guy we have here, he knew what he was doing. So, but I said, well, I thought, my thought was, if he knew what he was doing, he wouldn't be out there. He wouldn't have all the kids out there. So after a little bit discussing back and forth, the chaperone decided to go out on the ice and get everybody in again. And there was one kid that came up to us and showed one of his legs. His jeans was completely wet. He fell through the ice with one leg. So it shows how fragile the ice is out there, because you can't. So all of a sudden you can be walking on very, very stable ice, and then there's a hole. A matter of fact, this afternoon, for a few hours ago, we had two adults. There were too far out, so we couldn't yell at them and to come back in again, and so we just monitored them, and the next time we saw them, they were right out there, where the ice is cracking, and I don't know what to say about that, but I can quote our fire chief from Hamilton, because he said it very, very plain and simple. You cannot fix stupid. So,
It's a Darwin kind of thing. Get them out of the gene pool. And the students were not from our school system, just so you know. We've been teaching ice rescue and safety and to stay off the ice shelves for years.
And this is a typical example of shelf ice, because it may look fine, but you can see in some areas how thin it is, and if you step on that one, you're going to go straight through. And you can fall down in one of the caves, or even worse, fall down in the water, because the edge of that shelf ice, I think that the water depth out there is probably around 20-25 feet. So if you go through there, 32-degree water, there's no way we can get anybody out alive.
What school was it?
Hamilton.
Have we written anything to them to let them know?
Oh, yeah.
And what was their point?
Well, we
being
sent it
there?
to Grascup, because it's their jurisdiction, and we encourage all the municipalities to put signs up there. Easy to say that. So Doug reached out, Chieftain Blanket reached out to DNR. Probably by the time they get it passed, we'll be voting.
Mhm.
So I don't know
Was
what they're
this
gonna do.
the Oval, or was this the State Park or the Oval?
State Park.
State Park.
So it was Lake Town's jurisdiction, wasn't us.
But Kirk was also notified about this, and Kirk sent a message to Tim Travis and asked him to contact Hamilton schools and tell them to stay off the ice.
And the fire chief.
Having also contacted, when I sent the mail out that same Friday afternoon, he immediately contacted the top of the school system, and his information to me was that he was not pleased with what he saw on the pictures. So.
Yeah, I got a number of emails about it. It raised some awareness.
What was their point of being out there, just looking at it? Or
Yeah,
was
people
there-
like the beauty of the ice shelves, and it's just such a precarious, dangerous situation that we're lucky that we haven't had any students out there that we know of.
I remember from being on the other side of the lake, same kind of issue. That
What-
if you could put up, the trouble is, you look out there, it looks like
Yeah.
hard as a rock and
Yeah.
built up
Oh,
and
yeah.
can't possibly, but they explain that this is on the other, let's say on the other side, that the wave action underneath can cause those, ripples underneath, and then it thins up apart.
Undermines it.
And I wonder if you had a warning sign that somehow graphically showed that would introduce into people's minds how it can be thin ice when it looks like it's a battleship out there.
Was this after it was 60 degrees too, that one day when it was really warm?
I think it was, yes.
Oh.
Kind of like they do with rip currents.
Yes.
They put up
Swim
switches.
sideways and all that.
But where they need to do that is the entrance to the parks, because we can't they're not gonna bring signs and put them up every 10 feet.
Yeah,
It's at the
an
entrance
entrance
of
to
the
the
park.
state park,
Yeah.
and entrance to Oval
Oval
Beach.
Beach.
It's an
There
awareness
is one
we're
on the
working
entrance
on.
to Oval Beach.
And-
I got a phone call, you can't fix stupid. I got a phone call from some guy, and he wanted to know if the ice floes were still there. And I said, well, yeah, but you shouldn't go out on them. He goes, yeah, I heard about that girl in Park Township or someplace. He goes, I just wanted to make sure they were still here, so if we came up for the weekend, we could go out on them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I said,
She was lucky.
That's probably one of the most dangerous things you can do. And he goes, oh, yeah, but it's fun. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but okay. Go die someplace. Really?
The girl in Park Township was damn lucky her
Yeah,
dog
she
was
was.
freaking out.
Yeah, she could have died.
They found her with a drone,
Yeah.
from what I understand.
Lake Erie has the same thing with all these drone fishermen, you know, was it 2 weekends ago, what it cost to, they brought helicopters at 150 miles an hour all the way from Traverse City to get these guys, 100 guys on the ice?
Oh, yeah,
where
that
it
were on
broke
the
off
ice.
and they couldn't get to them by airboats? What'd that cost the taxpayers? They flew those Apache helicopters all the way from
hovercrafts and
Traverse
that.
City to outside of
And
Toledo.
so, yeah, wasn't there like 150?
100 of them, yeah, 150, and there was
On
like
an
6.
iceberg?
Well, it was an
Well,
ice,
ice fishing,
and
yeah.
it snapped off.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they were floating around on,
Jeez.
This is something I think we take for granted here, and people don't realize how precarious it is. And Mike Betts and I were teaching in Mrs. Green's class, which is pre-K at the elementary school, and she brought it up. She says, I'm really glad to hear no one's been on the ice, none of the students from elementary school. So she just brought it up. The subject matter wasn't even on that. But because there's been so much ice, we were really concerned we would have more people that would be falling in, but...
well, and there's been so much thawing and freezing, which only makes it worse.
so-
I was out walking on the trail a couple days ago, and you know, there's still a bunch of ice, but you could see the water going really fast underneath it, and you
Oh,
could,
yeah.
you know, it could just, yeah, and that's just on the trail, so it's definitely a problem.
It's a great example of community risk reduction by Eric, because not everyone receives that tip very well. They don't like to be told what to do, so in this case, Hamilton was right on it, and they got off, so.
But, oh my God, a school bus full of children, the liability for Hamilton's school system
Oh,
is
geez,
just
can you imagine?
ridiculous.
You think your kids are safe, you know, with their teachers.
Yeah, so some fool takes them out on the ice. Okay.
Next
moving
up,
on.
we had, as you know, a tremendous amount of calls. You've got those data charts, Eric, on 196, and I asked Eric to chart the calls that were on 196, in particular right around Kalamazoo Bridge, because we had so many calls there. And Eric charted it for me. I had these ideas. He makes it work, because I don't know how to do that. And it really showed some really good information. Again, part of the community risk reduction. Do we have a problem on Kalamazoo Bridge? I believe we do, so do others in the department. The surface is uneven, and they come down southbound, and they're coming down a hill, and they hit that bridge, which is exposed. So that's one problem. Plus the surface keeps moving, it's uneven. And vehicles start doing this, and that's it. And a couple of them were hazmat. We had fuel spills there. So he did some photos, yeah, you can see right there, at mile marker 38, you know, there were 5 calls related to that. 41 has a lot of calls, but for our purposes, the commercial traffic at 38 showed there was a problem with fishtailing and just losing control. Plus you have the river right there, so you're worried about the fuel going into the river. One trucker told us it's a good thing I wasn't coming the other way, because my truck was full of radioactive material. So you can see the activity of the icons have different types of meanings to it, but it just shows you where we had so many calls, and obviously for purposes of charting, some of these were like within 25 feet of one another, right here. They come down here and they hit this uneven pavement, and then they just lose it.
There's that section of repave asphalt on top of concrete.
Yep, right, you're right.
And that may be what, in certain weather, the concrete may have better traction
Keeps
than
moving.
black asphalt.
And this is all ice right here, because the wind underneath, and the salt is ineffective in the wind, so it's a combination of elements. We usually have campers that lose it here as well. So what did I do with this? Sent it to NDOT. Said, I think maybe we have a problem, would you look at it? And they looked in their database, and they didn't show any accidents here. So our database, Mr. Eric Kircher, is far better than that. So they showed us all the calls, and they distinctly don't have all the calls that we have. So somehow MSP does not get to logging the actual calls. I think a lot of that's because the county's on it, not always MSP. So he said, he acknowledged there was a problem with the surface where the bridge meets the land, and they're going to fix that. They're gonna redo the southbound up to 130th in 2000.
It's next summer.
21, 2021, sorry. So, that's what we do with the data, you know, as far as Kalamazoo Bridge and the uneven surface.
So are they just gonna leave that for 2 years, like that?
Yep. Yes.
You hear the explanation, I asked him about a stop sign one time, and he said, well, no one's been killed there yet. Like, really?
Is that Old Elegant?
Yeah, because I talked to someone about that road. No one's been killed there yet.
Bill Lester approached me 4 years ago with that.
What, are you waiting for someone to get killed?
Yeah, somebody got killed there a long time ago, in the
Well,
70s or something, I remember.
Somebody did, somebody
But
did.
much more recent than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Out on the
They were
north.
right down by the
It
summer.
was probably before that I talked to him.
Those are all red
When I
cobalt, I
drove
think.
down.
Yeah, sometimes we shake our head.
Oh, a cube, sorry, a little red cube, yep, that's what it was.
They-
So we just wanted to share that with you, you know, great work on the charting, and MDOT really appreciated it. He put it in the database, he also notified, he's the engineer for our area, so,
He appreciated it so much, they're gonna fix it in 2 years.
yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything about
The
that.
wheels of government
Top
don't
priority.
like that.
So, with that said, I'll move on.
Plus, I think people are completely numb, I include myself in this, to bridge surfaces freeze. You go by those signs and you go, yeah, I got it, but you don't,
You don't get it.
until you have the back end come out,
Yeah.
No,
it
there's,
doesn't hit.
There are not a lot of things that scare me, let me tell you. Standing out there
Mhm.
with these trucks coming down and they don't slow and there's one lane, and you're trying to take a semi and have them turn it around, you're shutting down the highway and you're hoping to God they stop. You call in another fire department to help you manage the traffic, and then you send them a bill. Well, I don't think I should have to pay. $4,000 later. So, it's a bit unnerving sometimes because people just don't understand the dynamics of the highway and the conditions that result in you're just flying down there and you have no control.
They have the same problem, just down at 105th in Casco Township, it's where Hawk Fit Golf Course is at, that one there. I bet you, it doesn't take even the rain. I bet you this year coming back forth in the last month, I've seen between semis and vehicles flipped upside down there. Probably one a week, two a week that I see, right there, 105th, and they got those cables on top of it, and that makes it worse. But it's another old bad design where they got this little narrow road underneath it, and it goes up and down just like that. And people come across that bridge and it's froze, and they just either lose it, the northbound or the southbound, it doesn't matter which lane it is, and it's a lot of trucks, upside down vehicles.
We reached out to, actually, Chief Ron Weiss called me from South Haven, and we were talking about data and the highway, and he said, Greg, you have 2 to 3 times as many calls as we have down here. Something about Graskup and Saugatuck and Ganges, where we have a lot more accidents than he does. And we were just talking about cost recovery and equipment on the highway and response, and he actually said, I feel sorry for you guys being out there because there's just a lot of calls, but they don't have anything like that.
I took Rick Thompson's mailbox out 3 times once. To the point where now he goes downtown to get his mail.
Give him another
So there's a bad spot out there too.
Give him another excuse to go to Phil's?
Yeah. Yeah, he calls me Crash.
I didn't expect that to come on, Stacy. All right, and I want to remind everyone again, my failure to put it on the agenda, don't forget the appreciation dinner, April 27th, Saturday, 6 p.m., St. Peter's Church. So, remember that.
22nd?
27th, April 27th.
And that's for the...
That's really for the firefighters. It's, hey, thanks, it's a dinner, you know,
It's a nice
beverages,
thing they do.
salmon, Farmhouse Deli agreed to cater it again for us.
That's really
And,
good.
just a really good time,
Oh, cool.
so
Yes, the meal is delicious.
please
And we get to
come.
go?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Spouses?
spouses
Yeah.
too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
6:30.
6 p.m.?
Johnny will send out another reminder, won't you?
Yes, sir, we will.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was gonna ask Eric to make sure he gets to the flyer so we can include the flyer, so.
Yeah, for the newbies, they need to know
Yep.
to bring your own and beverage.
Oh, okay.
One more thing I wanted to bring up, and it is on your financial statement. John was successful in a cost recovery on the highway, was actually a car, lost control, went across 196, and just missed a head-on situation, hit the left front tire of a semi jackknifed, and shut down the highway for quite some time, and we were paid in about 4 days. So, all that money went right in the account. We have a couple of outstanding cost recoveries we'll be following up on. The next item is something I just wanted to brief you on. We will be approaching the board, and it's this appropriate time with this project. One of the reasons for our response on the highway, one of the things we have to do is put out a lot of cones. If you could pull up on the screen, we have to walk and put the cones out, so we're looking at the possibility of a future budget change and funding from cost recovery, whatever we can. This is a chassis, okay, where you sit down here, you may have seen these from MDOT, you sit here, the cones are up in here, this person puts them down. There's a body, a truck body around you, a frame. This is a dual-wheel, one-ton truck. Right now, we take a dolly and we walk along the shoulder and we walk out and put them. This would at least allow the person to have a truck around. We would like to get a used truck. This is used. There were 5 or 6 of them for sale.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm taking over this. Go ahead. You
It's all yours.
found out about it. Go ahead.
You were doing so well.
No, go ahead.
No, and last month we joked a little bit about that auto cone 500 that's like $100,000, but in reality, we do need to do something to protect our personnel, because walking down the highway is the most vulnerable time where somebody's gonna get hit. And I think this body was used in California for about $14,000, and then we can find a used chassis for somewhere around $30,000. That the cost of a $50,000 truck to save someone's life is absolutely justifiable, I think, in the long run, for as many times as we're out on the highway. So, unfortunately, all of the bodies that were available have sold, though, so we're working with one of the local fab shops to see if they can make what we want even cheaper, and then customize it to our needs instead of how this one was set up. There's some features of this truck that are great, but there's others, like that seat in the middle, we don't need, because we can't put that many people on the truck to begin with. All we need is the cones in the center coming to you. For the guy, the biggest thing is having those seats on the driver and passenger side, which I think there's a couple more pictures there, Eric, if you want to scroll through them. That it allows, no matter which side of the lane you need to close, somebody can sit down low and deploy the cones and at least have a minimum level of protection of that body behind them, which obviously isn't much, but it's better than standing. Yes.
What about a trailer?
The crowd would be backing back up.
We
because
back up.
When you pick up on the highway, you start at the last cone and go all the way back to your aero board. So yes, we looked at that as a possibility.
Thought the same thing.
But yeah, you trying to back that in a straight line down 2 miles of the highway could be challenging for some people.
We do a cone delineation that's
Yeah.
almost,
So we're exploring options, and we'll bring it to the board at a future point, but just kind of wanted to give you a heads up as to what we were brainstorming and looking into to protect our people. So,
I think it's a great idea, but I think what we ought to do is start looking at cost recovery from 196 and maybe keep it separated so that can pay for itself.
absolutely.
Instead of the taxpayers going, what the hell are we doing buying something for 196?
Right.
So I
And
think it's.
Good point.
And then also grant funding too. I mean, we're not,
Exactly.
it's the ideal, we may have to pony up front, but then we'll reimburse ourselves via cost recovery or whatever.
We're just trying to share with you what we're looking at, because you say cone truck and people go, huh?
Yeah.
But the amount of work we're doing out there, we just have to find an inexpensive way of doing this, so.
Are there any excess inventory from the state anymore, or don't they do that? As far as a pickup?
The trucks we might be able to find themselves for the DNR, but the dually thing is the hard to find. And then if you go back to the side, the other challenge is you need the 84-inch wheelbase because of you have to have the room for that seated position. And most of them are the 72-inch wheelbase where that dual axle is about where the seat, where your feet would be. So there's not enough space for the seated position. So yeah, we haven't explored all the options yet, but that is absolutely a possibility.
Well, we'll just keep looking,
Yeah,
and we'll just
great.
keep you advised. Okay, next thing up, we want to let you know that the firefighter training council, Allegan County Training Council was awarded $14,000 plus for forcible entry simulators. Chris, you want to explain them?
I think we briefly discussed it at a previous meeting, but we were actually awarded the Firefighter Training Council grant. So this is it's a county grant, so it will belong to all of the fire departments in Allegan County, but there'll be 2 of these forcible entry props. So essentially it's a steel door that allows us to use the Halligan bars and other tools to practice forcing the doors, as well as there's many different functions of it. That there you can have steel rod and use the case circular saw to cut the steel rod, pop hinges, and just it gives people a hands-on chance at practicing breaking into a building without using someone's actual building to do it. And that way you're prepared of the best way to not only force the door with minimal damage, but the ways that you could also take a door apart potentially without causing any damage at all. And yeah, so anyway, the county will end up owning 2 of them, or the county training committee will own 2 of them that'll be shared between all the departments. And it's pretty easy to pack up and shove in the back of a pickup truck and shuffle from department to department. So it was pretty cool that we were one of the few regional grants that were awarded for something like that at the state level. So
Yep. Great work on that.
Do you have to keep replacing the doors then?
no, the only thing that you have to replace as a consumable is the rebar for the cutting station. Everything else is all reusable. So
Is that us?
It's not me.
Um,
Never know with your keys in your pocket.
Yeah.
You move a little bit, boom.
We also, with our great, phenomenal insurance company, years ago, they would not allow an aero board. It didn't qualify for a grant. We were awarded a grant for another aero board, truck-mounted aero board for the tanker 2141. It was a 50% match, so our part was just $3,202. So it's another way to save money.
That's 2 of them.
About 2 of them. Yep. So that's where we're at there. That concludes my comments.
Okay, we have no unfinished business, so we have no new business, we have no correspondence, public comment. Okay, fire board comments. I have a comment. We need to reappoint Scott Phelps as the member at large, and I think his term was up a month after mine, so it's been up for a couple months maybe. So I don't know if you want to just reappoint Scott, or how you want to handle
He's
it.
not here, we might as well.
And he's been on his best behavior, he's walking on eggshells.
Can't say no.
Should we make a motion to reappoint Scott as the at-large member? I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Beckman and a second by Fox to reappoint Scott Phelps as the member at large his term will run for the next 6 years, because it's like a prison sentence.
Maybe I shouldn't have done
Yeah,
that.
dang. That's what he gets for leaving.
Yeah, 3 to 6.
Oh, man, it's 6 years, so, all right. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Scott has been reappointed.
Gee, Jim, we missed meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other fire board comments? Aaron, Kathy, Stacy, Eric, Dan,
I have some.
but you're not a fire board.
I know.
All right, go ahead,
Sorry.
yes.
Some good news that I received today in the Live Fire Training Center. We had trouble with the anchors. Steve Bishop, Fleece and Vandenbrink got that approved. The anchors are in, and the base plates are getting mounted this afternoon. Tomorrow, 2 cranes will be here to put 3 containers in place. Then a fabricator will start welding those together. Then eventually, don't know when, a week, 10 days, the other 2 containers will come over, and the 6th one will come over. So tomorrow afternoon, around 2 o'clock, they'll start erecting those containers, finally. Cool. Praise Jesus, hallelujah.
All right.
I didn't have gray hair until I started the Live Fire Training Center.
Okay.
So that's good news.
I didn't have gray hair until I started the fire board.
So you've had it for a long time?
Yeah, I've been here a long time. So,
Okay, we are adjourned.
10 years, 11